It's a beautiful, disappointing Saturday, I would call it, because some of the expectations that we had, we didn't manage to wake up with them today. But anyway, it's good to be back on your screens to give you nothing but the best in terms of sports. And where sports is concerned, a lot of people on social media have already started concluding to say, are we going to use calculators again, or it will be a different shift? But anyway, I'm your host, Amos, aka Amory, and welcome to Off the Pitch, and I'm not alone on set. I'm joined by one Augustine. Augustine, welcome.
Thank you very much, Amos. It's always a pleasure to be here. We return all the glory and honor to the Most High God for the gift of life and good health. And good morning to our dear viewers out there. It's a pleasure to have you.
Let's just kickstart, Augustine. Let's just go straight to the disappointing result that we got last night. Was that the result that you expected?
I think if we had expected anything better going into Ivory Coast, I think that was disaster, because I think the best we could have come out with in Ivory Coast was probably a draw. Because if you look at Zambia's outing in the last 3 or 4 years, when we've traveled away from home, I don't remember Zambia going away from home against a big opposition in African football and going to get a result. I think the last one was the one that we beat Algeria. Is it by 2 goals to 0 in Algeria? Other than that result, I think we have always struggled away from home, and that showed with our application yesterday. We were playing with a handbrake on. We went into Cote d'Ivoire looking for a draw. That was our only plan. That's what I think. From what I saw, we only had one plan, and the plan A was to try and get a draw in Ivory Coast, and bring it here against Comoros, maybe try and get 3 points. And other than plan A, we never looked like we had plan B. And even that same plan A, did we really know how to execute the plan A? That was a lot of questions that were hanging around the game against Ivory Coast. It was a pretty much disappointing result, like you have said, the shambolic performance. Those performances are very, very mediocre. I personally, I didn't see Zambia going into Ivory Coast and getting 3 points. But what I wanted to see was a performance. That's something you can build on. If you go into Ivory Coast, have a very, very decent performance, the confidence levels go high, even if the result is not that good. But the performance, if it's there, the confidence levels go high, and it will help you in the last 5 games, which are very, very key now. We've lost to Ivory Coast. Comoros won against Lesotho. So meaning now Comoros are slightly in the driving seat. It all depends with the game at Hero Stadium on Tuesday.
But let's just go straight, Augustine, to the first lineup that we had. Was it the lineup that you expected? Maybe just to give it. We had Tostan Sabatao, and we had Frankie Musonda, we had Tandi Mwape, we had Luambo Musonda. But before I get straight, Augustine, into giving out all the squad, we'll just take a very, very short break, and we'll be right back on the other side.
Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Cabinet Channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay tuned.
We testify. We celebrate. For all you've done, Lord, we give you all the praise. Oh, we testify. We celebrate. Oh, for all you've done, Lord, we give you all the praise.
So before we went on a break, I was just giving out an overview in terms of the first team that was selected by our coach, and in the goalpost we had Tostan Savata, and we had at number 4 maybe the back 4 we had Frankie Msonda, Tandi Mwapelu Msonda, and we had one Rodrick Gawe, and maybe let me just give out the whole team. Tostan Savata, Frankie Msonda, Tandi Mwapelu Msonda, Lamek Banda, Fashion Sakala, Enoch Mwepu, Rodrick Kawe, Kings Kangwa, Prince Mumba, and Patson Daka. Any surprising starter here, Augustine, because a lot of people are talking in terms of why was Prince in the starting 11?
I think one thing that I've noticed about Zambian football is that we always pick the guy who seems to be the weakest, the guy who won't have a lot of support, because it's not just about Prince Mumba's performance, it's about the entire team's performance. Now they're trying to make Prince Mumba the scapegoat of such a atrocious performance by the Chipolo Polo. If you look at the entire team, let's just go back to the entire selection that was selected for this game. We had no recognized holding midfielder in the team. That's part of this team. We have got a lot of talent in attacking areas and in attacking midfield. Probably our biggest strength as the national team is our attacking midfield. We have got a lot of talent in that area, but how we use it will always matter. We do not have a recognized holding midfielder who is going to sit in front of a back four and shield it. And going away to a place like Ivory Coast, you play without a recognized holding midfielder, you are destined to be doomed, because you are playing two makeshift fullbacks in Rodrick Kawe and Luambo Msonda. Luambo Msonda is a right winger and Rodrick Kawe is a left winger. Added to that, you are playing a attacking midfielder in Enoch Mwepu as a defensive midfielder. That in itself, I think it's a big problem just at the start of the game. Prince Mumba, I felt probably the game was too big for him, but the boy is very good in terms of his effort and desire. He's always there in challenges. He's always trying. Sometimes things don't work out for him, and he has people now have become frustrated with Prince Mumba. Not because it's his own doing, but maybe the coaches are throwing him into a very deep end. And Lamek Banda, I felt it was very big game for him to start in Ivory Coast. We are not going to see a lot of possession. We knew that when we were going to Ivory Coast. So you try and have players that have got strong personality and character, especially off the ball, because we needed to do a lot of work off the ball. Those players like Lamek Banda, you see the best of them when you are in possession, when you are attacking teams. That's when you see these games, these players coming to life. And I would have preferred maybe Gampani Lungu. He's more of a defensive minded. He can play as a fullback, so when it comes to giving a shift defensively and going forward, he can do a better job than Lamek Banda, I felt. So coming over to the entire game, the first half we survived. It would have been 3 or 4 in the first half. Tostan Savata made a couple of good saves. Tandi Mwape made the very crucial interceptions, and they hit the woodwork once. And you could see the biggest problem that we had is we are not sure if we are going to press them. If we are going to press, it was going to be a full press or it was going to be a medium press. That's something which I felt we could have done better. Sometimes you see Patson Daka goes and he's pressing on his own, and they can play through us very easily, because Jean Mikel Seri and Sangari in central midfield, they had a lot of possession and space. One thing that we did wrong yesterday in Cote d'Ivoire, you do not give a quality team possession, you do not give a quality team time, and you do not give a quality team space. So we gave them all these 3 things. They had space, they had time, and they had possession, and they can hate you because they've got the quality to try and pick a pass. They see a run and they open you up, and the substitution of Kwasi and Wilfred
Zaha.
Zaha. I think that was the turning point. That was the turning point of the game. You could see the fear in the faces of our players. Immediately they saw Wilfred Zaha being introduced. And what happened is that when Wilfred came on and the difference was when Boga was playing together with Sebastian Haller down the mid, you would see Ivory Coast were more narrow because they had the very big target man up front in Sebastian Haller. And it was easy for two centre backs, especially Tandimape, to try and at least there's one big centre forward that you are closing down. But immediately they made those tactical changes. They noticed priorities that we had in our defense and they wanted to capitalize. What they did is that they told Wilfred Zaha to stick to the touchline, to be as wide as he can, together with the other substitute. They were very, very wide, and that attracted our defenders to try and go closer to them, making them leave those gaps in defenses. Because now, when Luambo Msonda goes to cross Wilfred Zaha, he becomes isolated from his entire back four. And they found spaces now they could play, you could see. I think we could have organized better because now Enoch Mwepu is not a natural holding midfielder. He cannot sense the danger to try and close the try and go and help the fullback and close spaces in that area. They started creating attacking overloads together. You saw Serge Ure going up and down the field. He had now the freedom to do that. They trusted in Seri and Sangari to pick a pass and unlock the Zambian defense. Every time when we were out of possession, you could see our midfielders were in no man's land. They didn't know whether to go tight or drop off. It's clear that the message to these boys was not clear, was how they had to apply themselves on a particular match day. And we were hurt by that. The first goal, I felt Luambo Msonda should have done better. He's very, very experienced. Yes, he made the block. He made the block for the corner. What do you do after you concede the corner? You concentrate because the danger is not yet clear. But what did Luambo Msonda do? He turned his back on the ball and started yelling at his teammate. As that was happening, Ivory Coast were very smart. They noticed quick starts. As Luambo Msonda and Chirufya were trying to turn and look at the ball was already in the box, and Serge Ure, fullback, making a run, he was there to pounce. The second goal that we conceded, a set play. Tandimape, Enoch Mwepu, I don't know if the third play. All of them smashing into each other, and that was a very free header. Free header. You don't do that when you go to West Africa. Those guys are big. You try and be very, very solid when you go to man marking, but we didn't do that. We conceded from that. I think from that we could have thought of damage limitation and try and just keep the game at 2-0 and then bring it back to the game against Comoros, because at the end of this campaign, goal difference will prove to be very crucial.
Very true.
So looking at the game, there were moments where I felt we were back in the game, especially after those two substitutions when they brought in Emmanuel Banda and Edward Chigufya. We had a little bit of momentum. We could have capitalized. It could have been an end-to-end stuff at that point, but immediately when Ivory Coast made those substitutions, mentally we were defeated. We still don't know Zaha now is in. Let's try and be a little bit deeper, and we stopped being adventurous. If you look at the Ivorians, the times that we went and pressed them, they had a mistake in them. We made interceptions, I think 3 or 4 times. We could have done better when we were in possession in those areas, because every time Zambia there was turnover in possession, I felt we were very, very poor in the way we handled the ball when we had it. Going into the game against Comoros is something which can be worked on and improved. Ivory Coast defensively, you saw a couple of weaknesses, but we didn't capitalize because we didn't play to our strength. We were all very much focused on the strength of the opposition and trying to keep that at bay, which cost us at the end because we do not have the quality that they have. This group of young players, I think, is the best that we've had in the last 5 years, if we have to be honest. This is a lot of quality, and there is a lot of quality players. What we need to do is to try and have leadership, try and give I think managing of these boys has to be good from now onwards. We have to find the right formation and the right balance to fit these talented players, because I think to me it's a waste to miss out on another AFCON when you've got a lot of players. 2017 we won the under-20 and we said that was the golden generation. We have got 5 or 6 players who are involved now from that squad. If these guys cannot make it to the Africa Cup of Nations, it will be a disaster.
Even you as home, you can as well contribute and comment to how you felt the game went. If it went if it didn't go our way, but you can let us know via our Facebook page, which is Camnet TV. You can follow it, like it, and you'll be able to send a comment there to say where you felt like it went all wrong. But Augustine, let's look at the leadership qualities of Enoch Mwepu. Is he a kind that can boost the team in terms of when we considered the first goal? Was the leadership shown there?
I think if you look at the overall performance of Enoch, I think it was a very, very poor performance. It's not the first game that I've seen Enoch in the Polo jersey that has performed this badly. The last 5 games in a national team shirt, I think, haven't been that impressive for Enoch Mwepu. But he's the kind of player who pick moments. He's very, very good when he's in possession. But we didn't see that in yesterday's game against Ivory Coast because probably we didn't see much of the ball, and those guys were very, very tired in midfield, chasing shadows because they are not chasing anyone, because they couldn't get close to Sangari or Seri when they are in possession. So they kept on chasing shadows, and it made the team to be very, very tired. That's why you can see we lost concentration in the 70th minute, the last 20 minutes. That's why we started conceding, because now the minds were tired and the players cannot do that anymore. They never had the gas in them to do that. And every time we were in possession of the ball, because Ivory Coast moved the ball very well, they kept us under pressure. We couldn't do anything with the ball because at that point the power had gone for players, the legs had gone out. And in possession, we kept losing the ball in midfield. I think, to me, I didn't see any leadership yesterday from Enoch, to be honest. Yes, he's not going to be the vocal kind of footballer who is going to be vocal and be shouting at his teammates. We always want to see his leadership in his performances. He needs to lead by example in his performances. If he's going to tackle, he's going to track back, he's going to take care of possession, he needs to do that. He needs to talk to his boys saying, guys, we are now weathering the storm. Let's just stick to each other. Let's be close to each other so that we do not give them a lot of spaces. We talked about defending away from our box. We didn't do that. It's something which we need to really work on, because against Ivory Coast team side, you need to be very good defending on top of your box, and it showed that we couldn't do that in yesterday's game, because the spaces where the defenders were defending, I think, to me, there were something of worrisome. If you are playing a team like Ivory Coast with the quality that they have, they can play in those pockets of spaces and make things happen. You saw Max Guedo was all over the place. He was dragging players out of possession so that they can penetrate. And the coach, Ayose Asanovic, couldn't read the game, in my own opinion. He couldn't read the game, especially at the time when we had gone down. He could have made substitutions to try and freshen up the team, have new ideas, bring in a different dimension. Probably he could have brought in Shemi Maembe or Benedict Chepeshi to come and play right back, so they push one bombs on the high up the field to try and attack the Ivorians, but he didn't do that. Even when we went two goals down, when the game is at 2 goals down in Ivory Coast, it's as good as over. You know, you cannot come back from a 2-0 deficit and defeat the Ivorians in their own backyard. At that point, I felt he would have withdrawn Fashion Sakala, Enoch Mwepu, and Patson Daka, thinking for the game ahead against Comoros. Withdraw them, keep them a little bit rested for the game against Comoros, bring in new players. They had Ricky Panda on the bench, top scorer in the Zambian Super League. Try and see what he can bring to you when they go and get stuff. He had players like Gampanilung. We could have brought them on to try and change Kampamba Mwanga, Rally Walia. He had a lot of options. He could have tried to change the game in Zambia's favor, but he stuck to his system and the structure of the team. Yeah, Clint Kangwa, poor performance. I expected more from him. He has had a fantastic season at Arsenal Tula, but you can see that yesterday wasn't his night. He could have been withdrawn as well, so that to keep him fresh for the game against Comoros. Because now what we will see is that going into the game against Comoros, we may struggle in the first 15 minutes, because probably the players that we saw playing yesterday will play against Comoros, maybe 6 or 7 of them, and those guys had a very, very tough night in Ivory Coast, and it's just a few days to prepare for the Comoros game, and those guys rested ahead of us. They played earlier than us. It has got a lot of bearing going into the Comoros game. But I felt Torsten Savata stood very well. He was very, very organized. He did well. Patson Daka's performance, not very good, but he was there because he was being fed on cramps. He never had anything to run on to. These are lessons that will be learned. This is a very, very young squad. They can learn from this. They need just to be taught and to be motivated that all will be well. Because if we do not qualify for this Africa Cup of Nations, it will be a disaster.
Let's look at going forward, Augustine. Like you've said, we saw the performance of one Patson Daka. I felt like he was one of the persons or one of the players who was supposed to be substituted a bit earlier, maybe to change the game, because we saw how the Ivorians substituted Hala. They knew that he wasn't performing. But going forward, looking at the Comoros game, would you go with the same starting 11?
I think changes have to be run. There is a lot of talk about Frankie Msonda's performance against Ivory Coast. I think it left an awful lot to be desired. This was his welcome to African football. It was very physical, and you could see that he never expected that. The game was very, very physical. The intensity, the tempo, it was something which he hasn't experienced in his career, and this will be a very, very big lesson for him going forward. Probably I would make changes in defense because that defense looked very, very weak. We looked like we were conceding every time the Ivorians were attacking. I would make changes, especially centre half, bringing Dominic Chanda to partner Tandy Mwape, give Frankie a break so that he can learn from these people that have played this kind of football before. Fullback areas, we do not have a natural left back. That's why we are using Rodrika as a left back. We do not have another option. If we place Shemi Maembo, Benedict Chepesh in that area, they won't be as comfortable as they can be when they're playing on the right side of defense. Probably we'll need to make a change in the right side of defense because we have got two right backs in Benedict Chepesh and Shemi Maembo. One can come in so that to push Luambo Musonda up the pitch. With his experience, he knows how to take on players, Luambo Musonda. He can start ahead of Lagemek Banda in the right wing and fill in a decent right back, maybe Chepeshi or Shemi Maembe, who can come in there. Midfield, try and twist it a bit. Emmanuel Banda, he came in, he didn't see a lot of the ball, but in games like the one we will be playing against Comoros, where we're expected to dominate possession and control, this is now where Emmanuel Banda can come in as the holding midfielder, push Cleans Kangwa and further up the pitch so that you can have more creativity and try and see what you can do in terms of opening up the opposition defense. Fashion Sakala and Patson Daka would maintain them. I do not think we have got the luxury to try and bench them in a game like Comoros. We need goals and we need to win that game. So we need those two guys. They have moments and they can just turn up when the time is right and produce the goods for Polo. Probably I would just make 3 changes. Right back, bringing Benedict Chepesh or Shemi Maembe. Central midfield, I would bring Emmanuel Banda for the young Prince Mumba and try and twist the formation a little bit so that to push Enoch Mwepu and Cleans Kangwa further high up the pitch. And the right wing, I would push Luambo Musonda from right back to right wings because he has got the experience. He's one of the senior players in this national team and he can do the job.
Let's look at the formation. Would you go with the same? Yeah, or maybe even the formation that we used yesterday costed us.
The formation, looking at the opposition that we are playing in Ivory Coast, I felt it was the best formation we could have gone with. Maybe if we thought of going with a back 3, play Dominic Chanda, play Tandy Mwape and Franklin as your 3 preferred centre half, and then have Luambo Musonda and Rodrika as wing back. Probably that way we could have denied them a lot of space. We could have defended on top of our box much better than we did in the game against Ivory Coast, and that would have given us the luxury maybe to see Enoch Mwepu control possession much more, because knowing that he has got a back 5 behind him that will try and remain solid and defend for the team. We will maintain the 4-3-3 going into the game and against Comoros. It's the best that we can do. We cannot go 4-4-2 at this particular time because we do not have a holding midfielder who is going to protect our back 4. If we try and take Comoros for granted and try and open ourselves up, we'll be found wanting they can hit at those guys. You saw their performances at the Africa Cup of Nations. They are a very, very intelligent side and they'll play good football. And we just need to be solid and show that we are ready for the pressure that will come, because there will be a lot of pressure playing at Hero Stadium, being the home side. The fans will turn up with large expectations to see the Chipolopolo boys win. If we fail to beat this Comoros side here, I think to me we may as well start thinking about the next Africa Cup of Nations, because it will be tough. Comoros have already picked up 3 points. If they get 3 here in Lusaka against Zambia, then it's curtains. If they get 1 point, it's still advantage Comoros, knowing that we only have 12 points to play for in the remaining 4 games.
But let's look at the Comoros side. That's very hyped. We saw the last performance that they gave at the Africa Cup of Nations, and we are not supposed to shun away from it. And we are looking at maybe a Lesotho team that we are thinking to be an underdog, but it's a race between the 3 teams. How many? Let's look at goals. We managed to get maybe a goal, which was somehow a lot of people are saying no, it was just something. But let's look at, if we're supposed to beat Comoros, and looking at the game between Lesotho and Ivory Coast, how are we supposed to cover the goal deficit? By how many goals are we supposed to beat Comoros so that at least we maintain the standards?
I think it was very, very important that we got that crucial goal in Ivory Coast, because the gap would have been we would have been talking about a -3 going into the game against Comoros, with them coming here with a +2. So if we get 2 goals against Comoros, meaning we all go to 0, and it will be advantage Zambia if we beat Comoros here, because at the end of the day, these qualifiers depend on head-to-head. It's what we do against the team that will rival that one slot with, because Ivory Coast look like they will finish top. They look very, very strong. I do not see anyone stopping them. Comoros, they are a very, very decent side. Probably they'll win both games against Lesotho, and their finals and Zambia's finals will be when we meet each other. We are seen as favorites to qualify from this group. And a game against Comoros, if we manage to beat them here at Hero Stadium, that will be a little bit of advantage in our side, because we'll have to play back-to-back games with Lesotho, as Comoros will be playing back-to-back games with Ivory Coast. And Comoros, if they can go and get something against Ivory Coast in one of the games, then we're in big, big trouble, because we'll be going to Comoros in our last game in the second half of the qualifications, which makes it a little bit tricky for us. They're a very good side, Comoros. We must put that in mind. They are very attack-minded. They keep the ball very well. They move it very well. They're a possession-based side, although they changed their coaches, but the structure of the team is just the same. You saw how Cameroon tweeted against Comoros. They are fearless. So we just have to be very brave in this game and get the desired result, so that we can start our campaign, because these remaining 15 points will be very, very crucial. They will determine who goes to the Africa Cup of Nations.
It's a game to look forward to, but for now we'll just take a very, very short break, as we come back and take a look at maybe some of the highlights that made the UEFA Champions League.
Hello, I'm Deborah Lukalu, all the way from South Africa. You are watching Camnet channel, not just another channel. God bless you. Stay
We
tuned.
testify. We celebrate for all you've done. Lord, we give you all the praise. Oh, we testify. We celebrate. Lord, we give you all the praise.
Some interesting comments that we have here in terms of the topic that we're discussing today. We've got Patrick Chilongu, who is saying toaster ku national team Kwalimu Shupa, and we have Andrew Malambo. This is Andrew Malambo. The game had no punch, no midfield, poor defense, character was low, below par. It was bad. It was bad. The coach was nowhere to show authority, and we have Andrew Malambo again, who is saying a lot of mistakes. That way you can't manage a game. No coordination, disorganization. That was a very poor performance to our team. We have Brivens Malisa. The coach couldn't lead the game. He was supposed to bring in another right back and push Luambo Msonda. The guys were just too weak. The problem we have with our coaches is experimenting. Does it mean Zambia lacks natural left backs, right backs, and defensive? Do we bring in coaches that always want to experiment, Augustine?
I think the conversation, I think it's interesting that the viewers out there are airing their views, and I've picked some comments like the guy who has talked about don't we have natural left back and right backs. I think to me that's an area of concern. If you look across our league, we've got a couple of players who can go in there and do the job. If we cannot produce good left backs and right backs in the league, then why are we introducing the quota system? If we do not trust our own players to play at the national team, we want these clubs who pay the money to trust them to represent continental football. I think that's a story for another day. If you look at, there was another comment who was talking about, is it the holding midfield?
The coordination.
The coordination, yeah. There's lack of coordination. There's someone who talked about you could have pushed Luambo in the wing. Exactly what I talked about. We could have made that decision earlier to try and push Luambo in the wings, because if you saw when Edward Chilufya came, there was a bit of life on the right side.
In some pace.
Yeah, he had pace, he had energy to try and run beyond the defender. That's an area we could have exploited earlier on. And during that spell that we had, it's from his runs that we got. We created a couple of chances. We had shots on goal, and the goalkeeper made a couple of saves. Positive introduction from Edward Chilufya. I hope he does the same in the coming games.
But let's look at going forward, Augustine. We saw when we forced the attack into Ivory Coast, like you said earlier, they were retreating, and we got maybe a few chances, a couple of chances there and there. But when you look at the mistakes that we made, but let's look at this guy who just commented to say Tostan Sabata national team Ilamushupa, but let's look at the saves that he made in the first half.
Yeah.
Would you still use him?
I think we wouldn't have any better goalkeeping performance than that we had on the night from Tostan Sabata. He was there commanding his box. He came out for crosses. He was very, very decisive. There's nothing he can do from the goals he conceded. In my own opinion, there's nothing Tostan Sabata could have done. Yes, he may have had a couple of bad games at the national team, but yesterday's game was not one of them. Because if we have to be honest, Tostan Sabata will stand out to be one of the best performances on the field of play, the few that we had. If I can say the closest that we had in a good performance was Tandi Mwape. The rest were pathetic, let's just be honest. And going forward, we just need to sit the boys down, try and motivate them and get them going again, because we cannot afford to start pointing figures again at this particular time. We really need to see the Chipolopolo boys at the Africa Cup of Nations, because in the next Africa Cup of Nations, Patson Daka will not be as young as he is now. Enoch Mepu will not be as young as he is now. This is their opportunity to try and play at the biggest showpiece of African football and world football at large. This tournament is so prestigious, it helps them grow as players and get to the next level of their careers. If you saw when Patson Daka Fashion Sakala turned Willy Body inside out. He was having problems. He didn't want people running beyond him. So I think we need to try and strategize. We need to do our research very well, especially in the game against Comoros, because they're a very, very dangerous side. If we take them likely, we'll struggle at Hero Stadium on Tuesday.
And let's shift our attention, Augustine, though we saw the UEFA Champions League coming to an end, where we saw Real Madrid beating Liverpool by 1-0, and it was an anticipated game because it was maybe Salah wanted some revenge over this game. But the overall analysis over the game.
Going into the encounter, UEFA Champions League final, Liverpool versus Madrid. Liverpool always saw this as a moment for revenge, and they went in the game as heavy favorites, if you have to be honest. From all the pundits and the football writers in the world, Liverpool were the favorites to lift the crown, and deservingly so, because they have been probably the best team in Europe. If you look at what they have achieved, they are very close to winning, is it the quadruple? Yeah, and they have come out second in 2 big tournaments and won 2, which was the Carabao and and the FA Cup. Going into the final, Liverpool were struggling with the fitness of Virgil van Dijk, Fabinho and Thiago Alcantara. And on the other side, the difference was Real Madrid had the luxury to rest their players because they had won the La Liga title weeks before the UEFA Champions League final. And if you saw how Ancelotti was working with his squad, he kept on resting his players for that big one against Liverpool. It was a tactical battle, 2 big coaches, 2 heavyweights of European and world football going head to head in Carlo Ancelotti and Jurgen Klopp. As we are building up to the final, I heard one of his press briefing, Carlo Ancelotti, and his message was clear to say, most of these players have played 4 Champions League finals before. I do not need to tell them more what they need to do on the final, because they can be the one that will be telling me what to do, because those guys have played a lot of Champions League final, and he knew he had inherited a squad of winners. These guys have won the Champions League. They won it back to back at some point, becoming the first team to defend the UEFA Champions League when the name was changed to the UEFA Champions League from the European Cup. And going into the game, Liverpool started very brightly. They had a couple of attacks from the right, likewise from Trent Alexander-Arnold putting in a cross for Mohamed Salah. Brilliant save from Thibaut Courtois. And you could see from the way they set up, Real Madrid were ready to soak up the pressure, let Liverpool do all the attacking and try and hit them on the counter. And as I was talking to one of my colleagues, I told them 2 people who win this final for Liverpool or lose it will be Alexander-Arnold and Robertson. Because when those guys push up the field, what they do in possession will determine if Liverpool win the Champions League or not. What they do high up the field of play when they're in possession, and what they do defensively when they are without possession, it will be very key. And it happened that way because what Ancelotti did was try and have a solid midfield. Fede Valverde was dropping into a midfield which was becoming a 4. Him, Toni Kroos and Casemiro and Luka Modric try and keep Liverpool from playing through them. And immediately when Real Madrid won possession, you could see Valverde going wide and attacking the space which Robertson was leaving in behind. And eventually the goal came from that area. Fede Valverde making a run in behind Robertson, attacking that space behind Robertson, and Virgil van Dijk could not commit because he was scared. If he commits, he gets close to Robertson, to Fede Valverde, it gives Benzema enough room to attack. So Van Dijk was caught in 2 minds whether to go closer to Valverde or just stick in there so that you do not allow Karim Benzema to make a run in between you guys. And what happened was Fede Valverde makes a cross across the face of goal. Who was the guy who was sleeping? Liverpool right back, Trent Alexander-Arnold. So it was always going to be those fullback who are going to win the UEFA Champions League or lose it for Liverpool. Every time you saw when Benzema dropped deep to get possession, and the young Vinicius Junior was always making a diagonal run because he knew that the 2 Liverpool centre-backs, at the point when Benzema drops, those guys switch off because the main big guy who are they are marking has dropped deep into midfield. And when he picks possession, he will just twist and play a long ball for Vinicius to chase. It would have been even more for Madrid if they could have had the courage to go and go. Liverpool did everything right in the final. You would never see a team which will go out of the final and say we could have done more. Liverpool did everything in that final. They did everything right. They created chances, and I've never in my footballing career seen a goalkeeper have a very, very big performance in a UEFA Champions League final like Courtois. I've never seen such a performance. I think Courtois had something to prove to the world, because he feels he's very much underrated. He talked about not being part of the top 10 goalkeepers who are nominated as the best goalkeepers in the world, top 10. He was disappointed with that. And he wanted to prove a point, especially to the English pundits who have always written him off. And it was a very, very good performance by both teams. Liverpool dominated play. They created chances. They couldn't have done anything differently. I think Madrid, the job that they did was to try and not allow Thiago Alcantara possession, because they know Alcantara is one guy who orchestrates the Liverpool play, who pick passes from the deep. You see those runs by Mohamed Salah, you see those runs by Diaz or Sadio Mane, and every time he was in possession, he was being pressed by either Fede Valverde or Luka Modric. They did their job on that, because what Ancelotti wanted is that you can leave Henderson and Fabinho have the ball, because they won't do much with it. But do not give space to Alcantara, because he was the guy who was going to be the one that was going to connect the midfield and the attack. But they closed him down and they did a good job on him. Probably Klopp, he was slow to read the game, because the substitution of Keita and Bobby Firmino, I felt, changed the game a bit for Liverpool. They looked dangerous. They started getting in areas where Madrid wouldn't have loved them to get. Solid performance by Eder Militao and David Alaba. They went in there, they defended their box jealously, together with Mendy and Dani Carvajal. That was a very, very brilliant performance. And congratulations to Real Madrid, deserved champions. And I feel at this particular time, the Ballon d'Or will be won by the Frenchman.
I know there are times, Augustine, that things can be twisted and turned. But let's look at the disallowed goal, something that brought some controversy as well, the Benzema disallowed goal. Because at some point I felt like maybe the leg that had remained for Benzema was the one that caused the goal to be disallowed. But I noticed that there was a defender behind. But what caused that? Was it the first pass? Okay. So according to the rules, Benzema was offside with the way the rule book is being set up. For you not to be offside, there have to be two opposition players ahead of you, not the goalkeeper, but two opposition players ahead of you. So as Alisson steps out of his goal and Robertson goes into the post, Alisson becomes an infield player, and if you have got only Robertson ahead of you, meaning you are offside, because the last man of Liverpool, it's either Van Dijk, who was the last man there. It's Van Dijk who's the last man, because now it's all about Robertson and Alisson swapping positions, and you cannot be ahead of 10 players of the oppositions and be onside. Benzema was ahead of 10, and the only one who was preventing him was Robertson, who was in front of him, but the 10 were behind Benzema, so which made him offside. I think the only problem that I had with that particular offside was that as Fede Valverde was making that touch, there was a touch from Fabinho and from Konate. Probably at that particular time, probably it would have died out, because there are two touches from Liverpool players before it went to Benzema. It wasn't direct from Fede Valverde, but it's all about the rule book. 10 players behind you, you are offside. 2 players ahead of you, opposition, regardless of who is ahead of you, then you are onside. And hopefully we've gotten one or two things from what Augustine is from explaining, because a lot of controversy was there in terms of why was the goal disallowed. But anyway, before we just close the show, Augustine, let's look at the game that was played, Italy versus Argentina, something that again brought some talking points to say why was it played, but when the other team won the Euro, it was never played. But let's look at the performance of one Chiellini, which was his last game.
What a day to end your career at Wembley and against Lionel Messi. I think, to me, at that particular time, Chiellini would have said, "Oh, let me just hang up my book. This is time." Because Italy, I think, to me, they lacked the cutting edge in the game against Argentina. They were not ruthless in front of goal. They saw a lot of possession, and defensively Argentina were very, very organized. And when they had their moments with the ball, they used it very, very well. Di Maria, exceptional. Lionel Messi, very, very brilliant on the day. He was always running rings in that Italian defense. And Lautaro Martinez, he would always play on the last defender's shoulders, which made it very, very difficult for the likes of Chiellini and Bonucci to try and close Argentina. What a footballer we have had in Chiellini, and we will surely miss him. The royal servant he has been to Italy. It was one exciting game, I think, to me, contrasting emotions for Italy. A year ago, they were celebrating at the Wembley Stadium, and this time around it was disappointment. It was Argentina who came out top. So I think credit must go to Argentina. They played their cards right. They knew what they wanted. I think Tagliafico, left back, was brilliant. He was always going to give the Italians problems when going forward, and defensively was very, very solid. Very good performance by Argentina, and Italy had luck. They've even missed out on the World Cup.
Anyway, it was a cup game being played at Wembley, and it was the last game that one Chiellini played. But anyway, like Augustine said, what a way to hang your boots, where you hang your boots in a very, 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 very disappointing, maybe with a loss. But anyway, looking at our Camnet Stars under 19, they managed to qualify in their zone, and the league table as at week 26, sorry, it was Camnet Stars at number 1 with 64 points. They played 26 games here, won 20, drew 4 and lost 2, and this has made them to qualify for the playoffs that will be starting anytime soon, and we'll give you an update on that, so that you'll be able to drum up a lot of support for the lads. And as you know, we've got another Camnet Stars team that is gearing up and preparing for the Division 1. When it opens, they'll be there to represent as well. Augustine, your final remarks as we end the show.
It's been a wonderful show. I'd like to say thanks to all the viewers that tuned in. We always appreciate your support and effort. And a big thanks to the entire production team for making this possible. We'll meet again same time next week.
This has been Off the Pitch, and like Augustine has said, on behalf of the whole entire production team, not forgetting Isaac upstairs and Ango Rabson, who is out on duty and he couldn't be with us today, but hopefully he will be with us next week. And on behalf of the whole entire production team, I've been your host, and we want to also thank Pastors Moses and Victoria Chiluba for giving us the platform that we have to give you nothing but the best in terms of sports. For me, Amos, aka Amore, it's bye-bye. See you next week, same place, same day.